Chair calls Dan McKnight, another virtual witness, our last one, is that right? Mr. McKnight, if you can hear us, if you would state your name for the record, who you represent, and your position on the bill. And you'd help us if you could, I don't want to cut you off, but if you could be brief, just to help us out a little bit with a couple of other bills. And we've had a lot of good testimony already, unless you're going to testify against it, because we haven't had anybody testify against it yet. State your name. Can you hear me?
I'm here, yes.
State your name for the record, who you represent, and your position on the bill.
Certainly. My name is Dan McKnight. I'm a veteran and the founder of a veterans organization called Bring Our Troops Home. We have members ranging from World War II all the way through the current global war on terror. And I'm here representing our membership and strongly supporting HB 2701. And I'll be very, very brief with my comments because I know you have other business to take up today. I did want to address very quickly, we talked about Title 32 and Title 10. I believe it was Representative Tinderholt that had questions about that. And I'd be happy to address that at the end if you have further questions. But the National Guard does have an obligation to be that third part of the military footprint. They are, being a reserve component of the military is proper. It is a defined purpose of the National Guard, but they have to be called into active duty combat the right way. Title 32 is typically used for domestic and civil defense and national emergency efforts. It's typically state controlled, but it's federally funded. Some examples of this we know are like the Texas Guard handling the Arctic blast or dealing with COVID relief, assisting in food banks, district health centers, COVID testing centers, and things like that. We heard about the California firefighters and the Oregon firefighters that are National Guardsmen. Those are Title 32 missions. But Title 10 is what we're here to talk about today. And that's when the National Guard is taken from the states and taken into federal control for active duty combat or active duty training. And it's that first part, active duty combat, that Defend the Guard is here to address today. Nothing in this bill would keep the Texas National Guard from ever serving on any Title 10 orders or Title 32 orders, except for active duty combat, and only if Congress does their job first and declares war. It has been challenged in the Supreme Court. The Montgomery Amendment to Title 10 states that governors cannot object to the reason, the purpose, or the place of a National Guard deployment when it deals with training. And the reason for that amendment was because Governor Perpich from Minnesota, Governor Dukakis from Massachusetts opposed President Reagan in his use of the National Guard to build roads in Central America during the Central American crisis. And so they refused to send their Guard units. And so Congressman Montgomery added an amendment to the Title 10 stating that objection would not stand. And Governor Perpich took that to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court did agree that the governors cannot oppose those type of deployments. And they were very, very narrow in their decision, in their ruling. They said that governors cannot object to training missions. And they were very specific. They used the word training over and over and over again. And they wisely ignored the question of combat deployments because it's already been addressed. It's already been codified in the United States law. In fact, it's in the oldest law in our country. It's in the Constitution. And so the Supreme Court stepped aside and left that to the Constitution, left it as is. They didn't rule on it because it doesn't need to be ruled upon. It's already the law of the land. And the Constitution does divide war powers between Congress and the president. And this division was intended by the framers to ensure that wars cannot be entered into easily, that it takes two keys, not one, to start the engine of war. In 2005, so I was a United States Marine Corps reservist. I transferred into the active duty Army, and then I finished my career in the National Guard. So I've served in all three components of the military: active duty, reserve, and Guard. And I want to echo those statements. The National Guard unit I served in was the best trained and the best equipped unit of all the three that I served in. But in 2005, I received a phone call at about 4 a.m. asking me to lead a convoy of Idaho National Guardsmen from Idaho to Louisiana to deal with Hurricane Katrina, because the Louisiana National Guard was in Iraq, building roads and bridges and dams and levees in Iraq, when they should have been in Louisiana building roads and levees and bridges and dams, but they weren't. And so 50 states and 3 territories sent their National Guard units to Louisiana to respond on a Title 32 mission. Now, there's questions about whether Louisiana National Guard should have been in Louisiana or they should have been in Iraq. The way I would answer that is this. Congress punted. They did not want to put their name on the line before the Louisiana National Guardsmen put their boots on the ground. And so they didn't declare war. They advocated that responsibility to the president. And that's all the Defend the Guard Act, House Bill 2701, is here to address. That if you want us to go, and it's so important that the United States needs to change the state of peace to a state of war. If you want us to go fight those wars and defend our nation and our Constitution, then the Constitution must be followed. Congress should be responsible for any declaration of war before we send our sons and daughters, our tradesmen, our teachers, our police officers, our citizen soldiers to go fight and possibly die in a forever war in another nation. And with that, I'm going to leave my comments at that point. I know that we're short on time, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, thank you so much for the opportunity, and thank you for taking up Defend the Guard.
Thank you very much for waiting and for testifying. We appreciate it. Members, any questions?
I have one quick question.
Ms. Denholt?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So there's two sides of this. What happened to, was it Minnesota and Dukakis? What happened to those two states? Did they pull did the National Guard Bureau pull resources from those states eventually? Do you know what happened after they?
Mr. Chairman, Representative, yes, thank you for that question. No, the National Guard Bureau did not. In fact, what they did in response was they found National Guard units from other states that would go and complete the mission until Governor Perpich and Governor Dukakis left office, and then those National Guard units, those civil engineers units, were able to complete the mission again. And the reason that those governors really opposed was because they hated Reagan. They didn't hate the mission; they hated Reagan. And the civil affairs and the civil engineers couldn't train in the United States. They couldn't build roads in the United States because the military is not allowed to compete against the civilian sector and build roads and bridges and streets here in the United States. That's not their job. And so they did not lose funding. They did not lose resources. In fact, their mission actually amplified as soon as Perpich and Dukakis left office. They were able to rejoin the training missions.
Thank you. Thank you very much.